Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dialogues from the President's Corner featuring Dr. Czarda, President of Greensboro College, as well as our special guest today, Dr. Dan Malotky, VP for Academic Affairs and Provost. How are you both doing today?
Doing well.
Very well.
It's fall. It's October. It's fall.
Finally, some cool weather.
Thank goodness. I mean, the outfit goes with like the orange and the brown. So, I love sweater weather.
Well, and we're talking two people from New York and one from Minnesota. So,
yeah. So as we enter like the second full month of the semester, which is October, we're near the halfway point of the semester. And we wanted to talk a little bit about like inside baseball, talking about accreditation and academic standards here. So Dr. Czarda, do you want to talk about the history of accreditation at Greensboro College and why it's so important?
Yeah, I'll do my best to make it fairly simple without getting too complicated. But in the early 20th century, early 1900s, as more and more colleges and universities emerged and what looks like modern higher education was put in place, and when the federal government started putting taxpayers' money into tuition assistance in the form of financial aid, the federal government required that colleges go through a process where there was some guarantee and some promise that the education was worth the money that the taxpayers were paying for financial aid. And so in the early 1900s, regional bodies began to be formed, and they have very uncreative names like New England, Middle States, South, except the ones that's called the Higher Learning Commission is the one in the middle of the country. So 7 to 9 emerged over time. And Greensboro College first became accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools in 1926. So we're nearing our 100th year of being accredited. And the most important part of that is not only the promise to the students and their parents and the taxpayers, but also it is a requirement that you be accredited for students to be able to spend their federal and state financial aid at an institution. And so, accreditation is critically important to everyone, and there are sometimes challenges the colleges go through. We faced our own 10, 15 years ago. We worked through those very nicely, and we're in very good circumstance today with our accrediting body. And the acronym today is SACSCOC, which is the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges. Mouthful.
I mean, I know with accreditations is a lot of steps and a lot of processes involved. And I know Greensboro College is the year of record for 10 years. So do you want to both talk about that? Because I know, Dan, you're the liaison for SACSCOC for the college.
Yeah, let me say something, and then we'll turn it over to Dan because he's our liaison, is that the communication between the accrediting body and the colleges are all the time, basically. But there are a couple of major milestones. One is every 10 years, we go through what's called a decennial reaffirmation. Accreditation has its own language, sort of. And at SACSCOC in Atlanta, there are, I forget how many now, I think it's something like 20 vice presidents, and they all have 70 to 80 schools. So we have a vice president that is their liaison to us. And every college university has someone on the senior staff who is our liaison to SACSCOC, and that is Dr. Malotky. So I segue to him.
Yeah, and this is our year of record, as you say. So what that means is this is the year that we collect data, gather our resources, form committees, and start to write our report to SACSCOC about, here, this is what we're doing, and this is why we're meeting all the standards that are set. So we do that this year. Next year, SACSCOC will actually be doing the reviewing of us. In the fall, they do an off-site review. So they will read what we have written, what we hand to them. And then in the spring, they actually send a team here to interview us, to look at what we're doing, to ask any further questions. And then in the fall of 2025, the Board of Trustees will render its decision about the reaffirmation of our accreditation. So that, is a big dramatic moment. We will be fine, right? And then it starts all over again.
I know I introduced you at the start of this episode as the college's VP for Academic Affairs and the Provost. So and you're also a professor here on campus. So do you want to talk about your background in higher ed and how, I guess, the work that you usually do compares to like the work you're doing with SACSCOC?
Sure. Yeah, I started here 20 years ago, and it's hard to believe how quickly time goes. But I started in the Religion, Ethics, and Philosophy department. Am a professor. And this is one of the fun things of being at a small school, teaching a wide range of courses, right? Everything about religion, ethics, and philosophy, right? I got to, dip into all of those. But right from the very beginning, I had a small administrative role here. It's called Director of Ethics across the curriculum. So we had some programming on campus in connection with that. But then, over time, my administrative roles, I don't know if I want to say I did not pursue this, but the doors kind of opened as I was moving along. Jobs needed to be done. And I grew to, how do you say this, right? Like I often joke about going to administration as turning to the dark side, right? But actually, once I started doing it, I started realizing, well, no, this is actually a role that helps me serve my colleagues, right? And I think, especially now in this role as a VP and for Academic Affairs and Provost, what my job is to help create a context in which my colleagues can thrive so that they can do their jobs, basically. It's not all fun, right? Some of it is about putting out fires and solving problems. And, there's always, managerial management stuff that you've got to do. Mm-hmm. But it is also about not just affirming people in the good work that they're doing, but opening the doors for them to do that good work. So, actually, I will be going over to the and chairing the Curriculum and Instruction Committee, where faculty propose new majors, new classes, things like that. Now, it's not an exciting committee, except for what comes out of it. Yeah. I was joking earlier, it's like making a sausage, right? So it's not exciting to sit in there. But when you sit back and look at what, our colleagues in art or our colleagues in English are doing, right? English communication and media studies, then it's like, wow, that's really, that's an interesting major, or that is a great class. I often am thinking to myself, I want to take that class, right? That is, I don't want to say it's fun, but it's very rewarding, yes, right? To be a part of that.
That kind of leads me into my next question regarding accreditation and the quality enhancement plan. Do you want to elaborate on what the QEP is for both of you a little bit?
Yeah, starting a few decades ago, SACSCOC required all institutions to not only go through the full review of the quality of our institution, but also commit to something that would enhance the quality of the student experience, hence the name, the Quality Enhancement Plan, or QEP. As I said, accreditation has its own language, its own acronyms. It's kind of a field unto itself. And so we have been doing that for a while. For our decennial review that is underway, we now have to commit to a new QEP. They last about 5 years. Dr. Jessica Sharp, who is Dean of the Faculty, is leading that for the college. And on October 12th, we hope that the Board of Trustees at their annual meeting will endorse, accept, approve what is coming out of a long process beginning last year, where faculty, staff, students, trustee, alumni have all weighed in, boiling it down to 3 options as to what is best. And so I'll ask Dan to speak a little bit more to that process, but we're on the cusp of knowing what that will be for our next QEP.
Yeah, and we have gone through a pretty thorough process of vetting different ideas, first soliciting the ideas, of course, but then vetting them, getting feedback from different constituencies on campus, and also kind of workshopping them, if you want to put it that way. How would this, we've done this a couple of times with the faculty, how would this one actually work, right? Yeah. How would we make this go, right? And so that's all been part of the process of trying to choose one. At this point now, we've narrowed it down to 3 different options. What I'm excited about with our current options is that all of them will be good for us. And that's the idea behind the quality enhancement plan as well. You're not just supposed to make something up crazy, right? You're supposed to look at what you're doing and saying, well, it would really help us if we did this. And I mean, I could see us doing all of them, even if we choose one as the quality enhancement plan. Yeah.
I know, as you mentioned before, you've sought input from faculty and staff and students about the QEP. So do you want to talk a little bit about also some of the people on the committee, making those final decisions?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, most important right now is our Dean of Faculty, Dr. Jessica Sharp. She has been leading the effort to solicit all this, the ideas. She's been organizing the events with faculty and staff, and she's reached out to students and, everybody, right, to get their feedback. She's been really the point person on that, but she also has established a QEP committee, right? I believe I serve on that committee, and that committee helps her kind of sort the feedback that we're getting back, and has helped us, narrow the possibilities down to these three. And so she is leading that for now. Once we decide on a quality enhancement plan, then she will hand on the baton, right, to someone that we will, I don't know, it might be voluntold, right, but we will name someone as the QEP director, right, and they will be responsible for doing the reporting about the quality enhancement plan, doing things. Of course, we can't just do a quality enhancement plan. We also have to measure what we're doing, right? So that person will be in charge of all of that process. But we don't know who they are yet.
So since you've been working on this accreditation over the past few years, what have you learned in helping to oversee it, and compared to, say, when you were a college professor? And what are some of the challenges that you've noticed come up? A couple of different things strike me. And of course, I've not been liaison for long, but I've been, as VPAA and Provost, I've been involved more, right? But I've really just been the liaison for a year. First of all, you come to recognize that any other accrediting bodies out there for higher ed, they are not our enemies. They are in an oversight role, but in the meetings that I've gone to, the communication I've had with people in SACSCOC, and of course, learning from Dr. Czarda, who's very, very active in SACSCOC as well, all we're trying to do is show our accrediting body that we're doing good work, and we are doing good work. So it's just about filling in the blanks and showing them what we're doing. The same way that doctors have the AMA, right, the American Medical Association, lawyers have the ABA, American Bar Association. Those associations are the oversight committee of sorts for those professions, because lawyers can rightfully claim the best people to oversee us are other lawyers, right? And doctors can say the best people to oversee what we do are other doctors. Well, we have the same thing going on with SACSCOC and the other accrediting bodies.
In fact, if I could add, Dan, to that, when you get involved with SACSCOC, you'll hear a lot about the concept of peer review, meaning peers reviewing peers. It's all done by committees. There's committees at every step of the way. Our steering committee has been formed, of which Dan and I are on that committee, along with Jessica Sharp, Emily Scott, and Kayla Beagley. And peer review is important to understand that these are not bureaucrats in Washington. These are our peers judging peers. Dan has not yet had the opportunity, but his predecessor, Paul Leslie, when he was VP for Academic Affairs before he retired 3 years ago, did a lot of work with SACSCOC, serving on a lot of committees. And I've now been doing that very actively for a number of years as well. It takes time, it takes effort, but it's worthwhile.
Yeah. So it is other academics going to see what you're doing, right? Yeah. And generally speaking, I think as well, they will send people to us and have people reviewing us who know what small liberal arts colleges are about. These are reviewers, but they're sympathetic reviewers, right? Sympathetic, but they also know what needs to be happening, right? And so, it's not as though they just are going to give us a pass on everything, right? They're going to be looking for problems, but they know what higher ed is. They know what liberal arts is. They know what small colleges are.
Another thing I think we do have to say for anyone who might be listening is you're either fully accredited or you are not. It's not as if you can get an A or a B or a C level. Either you are or you're not. If you're not, what the body requires, SACSCOC, is you might have to do a monitoring report, meaning you have to follow up on something. You might be put on warning, meaning that you have 2 years to get off warning, whatever that issue might be. And you may be put on probation. While you're still fully accredited, you have another 2 years to get it straight. We've been there in the past. Many schools have been there. Big, rich schools have been there. But I'm pleased to say that with our decennial review 10 years ago, the result was reaffirmation with no further reporting required. That's an A+. In our fifth year review, we were reaffirmed with no further reporting required. We can't expect that every time, but Greensboro College is right on the top of the list.
Yeah, actually, it's a lot of pressure on me, right? We've been doing so great. Now but yeah, that's right. I mean, it is an ongoing dialogue, right? I just was saying about our year of review. The decision comes in the fall of 2025, but we will be talking with them all along the way. Many of the issues that they might perceive will be resolved before we ever get to 2025, right? And usually those are just misunderstandings, right? Or something that maybe we failed to be clear about something or whatever, right? So the process is intended to avoid being punitive by allowing this kind of back and forth to go, and you can improve your final report to the Board of Trustees at SACSCOC all along the way.
I know you all, you mentioned before, you guys are making the sausage. So I'm looking forward to seeing how everything's going to look in 2025.
And Matthew, one fact to know and tell to maybe end with is for our decennial review in 2016, our report was 3,000 pages.
Yeah, I'm speechless. I'm without speech. So.
Yeah. Well, we were just going to ask you if you'd be the copy editor. Right? So.
I'll have to think about that. So thank you, Dan, for joining us today. And thank you again, Dr. Czarda, for being here. Thank you all for watching. We hope you liked this episode. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you.